panel. I'm your host, Rodrigo, and today's topics will be on whether natural food methods are more beneficial and effective than products of GMOs. Our two contestants tonight are Corey and Cyrus. Corey and Cyrus. They will be answering questions I have made for them to further get their point across and convince us, the future nutritionists at the FDA, on which method best suits the general public. The questions will be answered in 3-minute intervals, and Corey will be on the side of why natural foods are better, and Cyrus will take on the point of why GMOs are more beneficial for society. So starting us off with the first question, Corey, we go to you. So throughout your research, what can you tell the general public about natural foods?
So to start off, what I could really say is that natural foods, they do a pretty good job at keeping your plate clean, as well as your conscience, meaning that you really don't have to worry about any of those environmental issues that really play into effect with GMOs, such as pesticide runoff, pesticide resilience, or even poisoning the wildlife. Pesticides are often used to repel wildlife, but natural food growth has proven it's possible to grow food without the use of these serious chemicals, because they really are a danger to the environment, especially if they leak in the nearby water sources or anything like that. A few of the chemicals that are used to fend off animals include organophosphate, carbamates, pyrethroids, sulfonylureas, and those are just a few of them. Those are just a few of them that GMOs use that natural foods do not. That's really the pro with natural foods, is that these pesticides aren't used, and that's really just the tip of the iceberg, as well as some like meats are injected that are not injected at all with natural foods, as well as even some crops are injected too, so you don't have to worry about that with natural foods. Natural foods don't contain pesticides, insecticides, or herbicides, which really, no matter if we are told they don't have an effect on our health, it's still really not good to be ingesting chemicals. Natural foods also don't use hexane, which is commonly used in GMOs, which is a neurotoxin that is also found in the composite of gasoline, which is really clearly that should not be ingested into our body. These are just a few of the major chemicals that are used in GMOs that aren't used in natural foods. Some studies as well has found higher levels of beneficial plant chemicals called polyphenols in organic produce, which, yeah, they are found in many foods, including like berries, red grapes, pomegranates, as well as even cocoa powder. They have found some studies that it's potentially harmful to products of cell activity. Some research has also suggested that phenols have anti-cancer and anti-inflammatory, which we are still in the midst of finding. The bottom line is really that organic foods contain lower level of contaminants, meaning for a healthier experience for both the distributor and the consumer.
Okay, thank you for your response. Cyrus, same question to you. I want you to talk about GMOs. Go ahead.
Alrighty, so genetically modified organisms are living things whose genetic material has been manipulated in a laboratory by some mad scientists through significant genetic engineering. GMOs are generally altered with DNA from another organism, such as a plant, animal, or virus. Some examples of a positive GMO manipulation could be the genetics from a spider, which produced silk, to be inserted into the DNA of a goat. This positive manipulation is beneficial to the goat since silk proteins do exist in goat's milk. CRISPR, a genome editing tool, allows a wide variety of modifications to occur, which were totally unthinkable many years ago. The most common and biggest use of GMO technology is within agricultural crops. So roughly 90% of canola, corn, soy, and sugar beets sold within the USA have been actually genetically modified. Most GMOs have been engineered to produce their own pesticides. However, some glyphosate is used to kill weeds in crops that have been genetically modified to survive the application of this exact herbicide. Dicamba, another herbicide, is used in situations where glyphosate is not available. Dicamba is another common chemical that kills weeds and crops that are modified to resist the application of the herbicide. Chlorpyrifos is an extremely common insecticide used on certain vegetables and fruit crops. In conclusion, GMO crops are certain types of crops that have been modified to contain new characteristics like increased nutrients for the consumer, resistance to drought, and pest tolerance. The GMO crops do increase yields and support the conservation of farmland and building sustainability.
All right. Thank you, Cyrus, for your response. Moving on to question 2. Contestant Corey, you'll be first to answer. What can you see as more beneficial in the short term to society with your method of production?
Okay, so short-term speaking, natural foods definitely have the aspect of better taste as well as better food quality for nutritional value. So spew some numbers at you. Natural food contains 21% more iron, 27% more vitamin C, 29% more magnesium, and 14% more phosphorus, making it really a much more sustainable food, really due to the natural process and the fact of being grown in such a much more nutrient-rich soil. The reason for the better taste also, like I said, lies in the soil being a much higher quality soil than what is used in GMOs. They might not always look as pretty as a GMO because they're not really made with the higher qualities for looks. They're made with natural qualities, but they definitely are better for not only you, but also your taste buds. As well as crops, meats are also healthier when organically eaten, because most of the time when animals are being raised organically, you really don't have to worry about them being shoved like right next to each other or getting like just the worst treatment. They as well as injected either. They're not any of that stuff, so they'll have a healthier diet, as well as the chemical free like their whole life. It will result in a much cleaner taste. Hello?
Contestant Cyrus, you now have the floor.
Alrighty, thank you. The thorough testing of GMOs have been and still do undergo testing to ensure the safety of them for all consumers. With all of the testing, the increased testing allows more in-depth studies to be done to ensure the product is in fact safe. For every new genetically modified trait, researchers conduct upwards of 80 to 150 different tests to demonstrate the safety of the said genetically modified crops. The tests conducted do prove whether or not the genetically modified crop is safe to consume, if it contains the same or more nutrients than a natural crop, and that no new allergies will occur if consumed. More importantly, another test conducted multiple times is the study to see if the genetically modified crop will harm, benefit, or hold a neutral stance within our environment. On average, it is proven that all new genetically modified organisms undergo more than 13 years of testing and about $125 million in research and development before releasing the organism to society. Genetically modified crops are tested 30 to 50 times more than the amount of non-genetically modified crops, which many are not aware of. The extensive pre-market testing examines all potential hazards and determines the overall risks, if any, for all genetically engineered crops. Parts of the genetically engineered organism that get examined are the risks, molecular characterization, comparative assessment, nutritional assessment, toxicological tests, and allergenicity assessment. All of these studies can be used to assist the evaluation of genetically modified foods and allow the breakdown of why genetically modified foods are in fact safe or beneficial to consume.
Okay. Side question for the both contestants here. What do you think is more beneficial? How are your methods more beneficial in the long term then for society? Corey, we'll start with you.
In the long term,
Yes.
the long term is really, again, it goes back to that nutritional value. Um, you're not going to get any bad quality from natural foods. You're not going to get any of the chemicals. So the long term really is your health. You really are getting a better health from focusing on using natural foods rather than GMOs.
Yep. Okay. Contestant Cyrus, what would you say is better about your method in the long term?
I would actually have to say health as well. And the reason for that is because a lot of GMO, say whatever you're growing in your backyard. So say you have a natural plant growing in your backyard that's going to grow carrots or lettuce or tomatoes. That hasn't gone through so much testing in comparison to a genetically modified crop that you would get your tomatoes, your lettuce, your carrots from the grocery store. So you really don't know exactly what that seed, plant, whatever you got, whatever you picked up from the store to plant your own and think that you're going to be all healthy and safe because you're growing it yourself. You really don't know. Someone could have done something to that seed to manipulate that in a negative way rather than having it tested extensively to see if in fact it is safe to eat and to get that nice big, for example, red tomato that everyone loves in the summer.
Alrighty, thank you for your responses. We are now moving on to question number 3. Question number 3 is, what testing results through the CRISPR technique has your production method proven on different types of crop species?
Oh, is that me now?
Yeah, Corey, I'm sorry. Yes, contestant Corey, you have the floor.
Okay, my fault. So some results we've been able to show have evidence that any species that eats organic food does indeed have a healthier life. But unfortunately, due to lack of studies, there really is no proof leading towards any real significant physiological changes other than those I've already spoken on. The fact really is that organic is the cleaner way of eating, because even though there aren't many studies leaning toward the pros of organic methods, there are so many instances out there in which the evidence shows the clear cons of GMOs. Meanwhile, there aren't really any cons besides price for natural foods.
Okay. Contestant Cyrus, you have the floor.
Thank you. So, genetically modified crops that contain an increased amount of vitamin or mineral content have been proven to hold a large stance on improving our public health. The crops have a promising market potential, skyrocketing through mostly all goods that could be purchased. GMOs do in fact have positive effects on human health due to the enhancement of micronutrients in the same crop by genetic modification, which does prove the best results. All of the safe additives provide supplemental nutrients at a low cost to all consumers who decide to purchase these items. GMOs also offer a cost-effective alternative when other options are not feasible to eliminate malnutrition. CRISPR allows for significant opportunities for improvements in crop production, both in reducing biotic and abiotic stresses and increasing yield potential. Simply speaking, CRISPR allows for a kind of basically like clip and paste edit to be implemented to DNA in living cells. CRISPR is being hyped up to be the next generation of genetic engineering, which could in fact eliminate fewer pesticides that are applied during the growth of the crop. When CRISPR is used to genetically modify a crop, foreign DNA is not necessarily being injected. However, the systems used to deliver CRISPR into a crop are delivering that DNA, therefore making it a GMO. By working with CRISPR, safer DNA transfers are completed due to the 3 to 5 day life the DNA lasts. Additionally, the use of agrobacterium is the most common way of introducing DNA into an organism, but is a bacteria that causes significant plant diseases. With this method, control cannot be taken when genetically modifying, whereas CRISPR allows control of the injection of new DNA to another organism.
All right, moving on to our next question, contestants. Thank you for your responses. Question number 4 reads: Earlier we talked about injections with crops and everything. What possible outcomes could come from doing these injection methods on your specific food method? Contestant Corey, you have the floor.
All right, so I'll speak a little bit on some of the facts we know about genetically modified chickens. So one of the dangers we know currently about genetically modified chickens is that hormones are pumped directly into them to make them plumper and bigger and to grow at a more accelerated rate. Usually they're tube-fed multiple types of antibiotics and growth hormones in large doses, which can result in many health problems. According to PETA, the average breast of an 8-week-old chicken is 7 times heavier today than it was 25 years ago, which is amazing because it really makes you think about what they're pumping them with. The unnatural gain in weight, it causes the chickens often to die because of lung issues and heart attacks, because the heart and lungs cannot keep up with the accelerated growth of the rest of the chicken's body. And many of them also die from heart failure for that reason. Another issue from the injections method that is dangerous and is really the risk it has on humans. There's a major issue as many studies have really shown that the hormones injected in the chickens do not have somewhat of an effect on humans, or do have somewhat of an effect, on humans, that potentially can lead to heart disease and or even cancer. These growth hormones are a real big risk to people's health. Clearly, with cancer being one of the things that's a life-threatening disease, obviously. And that's horrible to find out. And studies have really shown that hormone residue found in meat from these animals can disrupt the consumer's hormone balance. It can cause developmental problems. It can interfere with the reproductive system, and as I said before, even lead to cancer. There was also a study that said women who are pregnant and also children are even more susceptible to these detrimental health effects. The hormones in poultry and other livestock may also be considered the reason for early onset of puberty in females over the last few decades. Also, so the push towards GMO-free foods, it's becoming quite popular nowadays. It's really the new fad is to get natural foods and hop on the organic way. It really does need to be the way of the future in order to preserve our health and also be humane to the animals.
All right, thank you for your response. Much, very informative, very critical thinking. Thank you very much. Contestant Cyrus, it is your turn.
Alrighty, thank you. So a possible outcome of injecting animals could in fact result in consumers not having to participate in certain vaccinations or consume different supplements that are provided within the injection into the animal being genetically modified, such as B12. The injection process shows little to no benefit to consumers. However, if done properly and injected with a chemical that can benefit humans, medication consumption could be diminished to make it easier for those who struggle with taking medication. To be exact, a scientist has the ability to manipulate pretty much everything when it comes to genetically modifying things. A scientist could take the genetic makeup from a strawberry and inject it to a banana. Throughout that genetic engineering process would then leave the scientist with a stranana. The makeup of this new fruit would eliminate the cost for consumers of having to buy both a banana and a strawberry to get the satisfaction of a wonderful taste from both fruits. Another example of a manipulation with injection could be the combination of steak and shrimp, creating a shrike. The same process would occur during the genetic modification and allow for two amazing tastes in one chunk of meat for a low cost.
Very, very intuitive. I like that idea. It sounds like it'll be quite the creation if that ever were to come. Alrighty. question number 5, guys. Our last question of the night. What ways do you believe you could improve both production and quality of both your methods? Contestant Corey, you have the floor.
So I'm not going to play dumb here and say that natural foods are winning when it comes to production value. It's clear that they're ahead in the race when it comes to that. Organic food is really such a small part of our food system, even now. To put it in perspective for you, while the organic food market has grown in the past few years, a recent study has shown that roughly about 49 million Americans make food choices purely based on price, which kind of leads to the statement that as long as organic food remains at such a high cost, GMOs are going to continue to outsell them. So one method that I believe could improve the distribution of organic foods would be finding ways to decline the cost of production, but finding ways to decline that cost enough to where even though you decrease the price tag on shelves, it still won't hurt you financially. Some ways could be like the cost of the soil. Maybe try finding some methods to reuse that soil, as well as finding soil that's healthy but still not as expensive, but still has those rich the rich nutrients in them. Another method could be to increase the amount of land farmers use for organic products. Often it is reported from most farmers that grow organic crops that they also grow GMO crops. I mean, I get it, it's a business, they got to do that. But if we could use more of that land for organic, then you'll really get a chance to see more of that organic product hitting the shelves, maybe a little bit just to compete with GMOs. When it comes to meat aspect of organic foods, really it's more space. More space is really needed in this field, as the norm has become to really pack as many animals in a tight space as possible. But doing this can add a lot of stress, and it also can lead to many deaths among the animals. By increasing the space, you'll give the animals the space required to have a healthier life, which will result in a bigger size in a natural way, rather than pumping the chemicals into them to make them bigger. And it'll also leave the consumer with a much cleaner conscience. Organic foods are definitely winning due to the rich nutrients from the soil, as well as the healthy production of crops, and the animals just having healthier and leave a better taste in your mouth. Natural foods are really the way of the future, and as time goes on, I think methods will become more available to allow for more cost-effective ways to increase production and distribution.
Thank you, contestant Corey. Thank you for your response. Contestant Cyrus, you have the floor.
Thank you. So, genetically modified crops that are resistant to herbicides allow farmers to take control of weeds without damaging or wasting those crops. One benefit to farmers and the environment would be less fuel use and labor. This is simply due to the fact that farmers will not have to worry about tilling their crops to get rid of the weeds. So, genetically modified crops increase the productivity and improved the lifestyle of farmers and all of those who rely on them. With the persistent use of GMOs, benefits will begin to become more visible rather than just barely visible due to the fact that so many people are against GMOs. The repetitive use of GMOs will allow for an easier crop growth, which is better for the environment and consumers due to the abundance of nutrients within those crops. Production of GMOs should be done strictly through CRISPR, in my opinion. I feel that CRISPR is the safest way to genetically engineer crops, allowing significant control to be given. In the future, I do see many medications being injected into certain crops that will benefit health, take care of common cold issues, alleviate pain, and aid in relief for some cancers. Some herbicides used currently could also be eliminated, resulting in a much, much safer and cleaner crop that gets consumed.
Alrighty. Thank you, contestant Cyrus. Alrighty, we have concluded our questionnaire for this panel. Thank you for everyone who has joined in, and hopefully everyone got an idea of what is better for them. We will later come back after the commercial break to come back with a decision as to what is better for the general public. Thank you for your time, contestants, and thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.